Okay, so this is the second part of our introductory econometrics video. The whole point is to explore relationships between different variables. We explore these relationships using econometrics models. So in this video, I'm going to talk about some econometrics models and give you a kind of taste of how these models are built. The econometrics models are either based on an economic theory, and this is the first model that I'm going to talk about economic model of crime. This model was built using a utility maximization framework and different mathematical derivations, and using those derivations and the behavior of criminals based on the costs that may incur if a criminal is caught in a criminal activity, and the benefits of engaging in a criminal activity. This is the first way of building an economic model, and then you arrive at some of these equations or some of these determinants of criminal behavior in your model. That's the first way of building an econometrics model. The other way is like simply write an equation. That is probably the easier way. You think about what may be affecting criminal activity, and you may arrive at exactly the same equation. So you can do it in two ways. So this first model, it was built by a Nobel laureate, Gary Becker, and this model is based on economic rewards and the cost of engaging in criminal activity. And here a variable y shows the hours spent in criminal activity. And according to Gary Becker, there are 7 variables those may affect somebody's or an individual's behavior. The first one is X1. It represents the wage that criminal activity will bring to a particular individual. So essentially, this is the benefit part of engaging in a criminal activity. The next is the opportunity cost of engaging in criminal activity. For example, wage for legal employment. If the wage for legal employment is like very high, so why go for a criminal activity? So this is essentially the opportunity cost, and so you have to compare these two variables. X3 is the other type of income. So if you are making a lot of money, or your family is supporting, so why engage in a criminal activity? So why not simply go for this? Why? So these are some of the rewards and opportunity costs of engaging in criminal activity. Then we have the costs of engaging in criminal activity. So what is the probability of getting caught? So if the probability is very high, then you should probably spend less time in criminal activity. What is the probability of conviction if you are caught? And what is the expected sentence? And what is the age of a person engaging in criminal activity? Because we may expect that younger people, they may be more inclined towards criminal activities rather than older people. Here we are exploring the relationship between variable y and some of the determinants of that variable. In this case, we have 7 of them. So the point is to explore these variables. And the next example is the relationship between wage and training program. So we want to explore whether this training program is effective in increasing workers' productivity. If it is productive, then you probably will recommend going for this training program and spend money, because the training program will incur a lot of cost, and so you have to justify this cost only if that training program is effective and it is increasing the productivity of the workers. But if it is not, if the training program is not increasing workers' productivity, you probably say like, hey, don't give training to the workers. So this is the second type of model. And essentially the wage of a person, it depends on their education level, years of experience, and then this training program. So this is our variable of interest. So we'll talk about why are we including these variables in the future, and we'll talk about why and how these variables are included. So going back to our first model, so that was a very vague equation that we described. So this relationship is just simply a function. We have no idea about how to represent this relationship in a mathematical form. So what we can do is we can write an econometrics model. So this is an econometrics model where what we are doing is we are essentially representing the same relationship. So this is the criminal behavior or the measure of criminal activity. In this case, in our case, it's the number of hours that a person engage in criminal activity based on those 6 determinants. We'll talk about these parameters later on. So this is the constant beta 0. I will explain to you what is this beta 0. I'll probably show you a graphical representation of beta 0. I will also show you graphical representation of these other parameters, beta 1, beta 2, etc. So this whole course is about exploring these beta parameters. So we'll be using statistical tools to explore these beta parameters. And these beta parameters, these are telling us the relationship between this variable and for example, this variable. So this beta 2 is showing us the relationship between other income and the criminal behavior. And these beta parameters will show us two types of relationships. The first is the direction of the relationship. Wage from legal employment, it is also negatively correlated with criminal behavior. Higher the wages from legal employment, the less will be a person's inclination to engage in criminal behavior. It will also tell us the strength of the relationship, so how strong this relationship is. So we'll talk about economic significance, and also we'll talk about the statistical significance for the rest of the class. So this is kind of an idea about how are we going to deal with econometrics models. This is our second model. The goal is the same thing. We are interested in beta 3 here. So we are interested in how a training program will affect the worker's productivity. We expect this beta 3 to be positive. Remember, these beta parameters, they show you direction of the relationship and the strength of the relationship. So we expect beta 3 is positive, and this is the theory that we are going to test based on the data. So we expect this to be positive. Training program increases wages or productivity of the wage. So we include education and experience in this model, and everything that we do not include in this equation, it will be captured by this error term, which shows us the effect of other factors, the factors that we cannot observe directly, or we don't have data about those variables. So those will be captured by this error term, and everything else will be captured by this. So we'll talk about these type of models in the rest of the course. So this is a kind of idea about using different econometrics models. You can either derive these relationships using a framework formally, or what you can do is simply write an equation and use your own thinking and think hard enough, and you will probably arrive at the same determinants of a particular variable of interest, in this case crime, without deriving those equations. This was the idea of different econometrics models. Now you know about different econometrics models and how to build one. So essentially we're going to talk more about how to and why are we including all these variables for the rest of the course. So this is just an introduction of econometrics models. Okay, in the next video I'm going to talk about different types of data, cross-sectional, time series, and panel data model. I'll see you in the next lecture.